Welcome to a nutty adventure exploring personal growth and wellness, breaking down the stigma around mental health along the way. Let's dive in because now it's time to show me your nuts.
Happy Nutty Thursday, everybody. It is time to show me your nuts. Welcome to the show where we break down the stigmas about mental health, mental wellness issues, talk about anything and everything about nuts. And we also talk a lot about technology and the intersections of technology and mental wellness in lots of different ways. And today is absolutely no exception to that one, because we're starting a 6-week stint, a six-week series. It's a 6-week series about breaking through things. So, and what a day to start talking about breaking through things, except for the day after a full moon that came on April 1st. It wasn't an April Fool's joke, and it was a very powerful one with lots of breakthroughs for many people. I definitely can speak to breakthroughs for myself on that one. I'm still processing that. And so what a day to start talking about breakthroughs that we've had, and to talk about dealing with how do you break through things both at the same time. So, because this year is all about change, it's all about being ready for change, because I think next year there's going to be big changes. And I want to make sure to do my part in helping people be ready for change. So that's kind of the impetus behind this year is let's get ready for change in lots of ways. And so since we're getting ready to talk about breakthrough, let's do a how charged are your nuts, which is a thing I do around here, asking people about how charged are your nuts. So let's look at how charged are your nuts. Get ready. So how charged are your nuts about overwhelm? How overwhelmed are you feeling by your devices? What many people call technology, I call it digital technology or devices, like objects or gadgets, as my family is wont to say. They used to call me the gadget queen. And I'm not so. The thing is I'm more of a software girl. But anyway, how overwhelmed are you feeling right now by your devices? Rate your tech overwhelm on a scale of 1 to 10. So how tech overwhelmed are you feeling right now on a scale of 1 acorn to 10 iPhones? Or if you're an Android person, okay, 1 acorn to 10 Androids. I'll go with either of them this morning. How overwhelmed are you feeling by your devices right now on a scale of 1 to 10, and I'll keep going while I wait to see what happens in the comments. I'm so excited. You could be watching anything right now, but I appreciate the fact that you're watching here. So we'll see how charged are your nuts about tech overwhelm today from 1 to 10. So I'll come back around and find out how charged everybody's nuts are here after a bit. And let's go on to look at how this breakthrough series begins. We're kicking off cycle number 3 by tackling a foundation of technology and mental wellness. So one of the crossroads of technology and mental wellness is tech overwhelm. And it's where, you see the phrase Techxiety on the screen, got Techxiety. That's where I kind of got that is one of my superpowers is to help people when they get anxious about technology. So they feel tech overwhelm. And I switch back and forth between my geek girl hat and my therapist and coach hats. And we switch back and forth as that person needs to get them through that tech overwhelm. And then I also teach different skills and things to help you with tech overwhelm. So today I wanted to talk about that, some of the crossroads there of tech and mental wellness in the arena of the cost of constant connectivity. What cost are we paying for constant connectivity? How much is that what is it? What's the emotional charge or the physical charge or the social charge? How much is it we're paying out of all of our various bank accounts like that to be connected with our digital devices? So not just the device itself, but the connections and the type of connections. And what's really interesting, as the Breakthrough Show Network is wont to do, we have crossovers of our content. And we don't even plan it, you guys. We don't plan this stuff, but it happens. I swear it happens all the time. So one of the newest shows on the Breakthrough Show Network is The Ripley Show. It's on Tuesdays. And The Ripley Show, this Tuesday, they were talking about the differences in how we connect digitally. And one of the really cool differences was they were talking about the how we go from that social media was one of the things that, that's how we connected for how long now, 20 years or whatever, and how likes and shares are what people connected on, but how likes and shares are kind of like empty social. They're not really this kind of social, like looking each other in the eye, being in a video room together, talking to each other, and how the differences between that kind of community and the different, like if you were sitting in one of these chairs in here, we would see each other. And the kind of community that is created when you can actually see the other person and you can hear their voice and you can see the nonverbal interactions. And when you can have more than 5 or 6 people in a room and you can have interactivity in a room, there's lots of cool things. If you haven't ever heard of Ripley, ripley.com, rippily.com. That's what I'll say. It is coming soon to a computer near you, and it is going to change how we interact socially from a distance social. Likes and shares don't feed us much. We spent 20 years doing the likes and share thing, and it'd be, oh, you get this bump of a like or a share, and then you're like, oh, and then you're back to like feeling empty. And that's all go back and watch the replay of that. It's on the Breakthrough Show Network. It's called The Ripley Show. And we did not plan this. this was not planned on purpose. Neither is the sneeze. I'm getting ready to sneeze. This is a live show, and that's proof. We don't plan these things, but yet the content of the shows on the Breakthrough Show Network are frequently eerily similar in the same weeks. I had no idea they were going to talk about that Tuesday, and they probably had no idea I was going to talk about this today, other than maybe some notes back and forth. But we don't plan the content that way, and we end up in the same place. That's because my guess is, my intuition tells me, one of the reasons for that is that we are connected as humans, and because of those energetic connections, we bring things together with each other. And so it's a different kind of connectivity. And let's talk about the digital connectivity first, and the hidden costs of it. And then let's come back to the positive costs of it, like this. So if you missed the how charged are your nuts, the question today is, where is your tech overwhelm sitting today, between 0 to 10, or one acorn to 10 digital devices? Where is your tech overwhelm sitting today? Because tech overwhelm is what many people feel. Sometimes it can be aligned with the cost of constant connectivity, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's not being able to get connected. So let's look kind of even more exclusively at the cost of that constant connectivity. Is, how do you balance being constantly connected to a device and constantly being in a digital world in order to connect with other humans, whether you're connecting in good ways, which to me, good ways, this is a judgment call, I'm not going to lie, is good ways are video, where I can see you, I can hear you, we can have nuances, we can text with each other while we're doing that, and we have layers of communication similar to when we see each other in person. Because the only thing you can't do in a video room with each other like that is smell each other or physically hug each other, do anything physical with each other. You can form the relationships that you form in person on digital the same way you do in person, with those two exceptions. And I would say that there's actually some bonuses, because you can connect with people all over the world, where if you're connecting locally and in person physically, you only have a certain amount of distance you can travel in a day at the moment, until we invent time travel where we can teleport anywhere. Although maybe that's coming, so there could be that. So hey Jessica, I am sending you some hugs. Good to see you. Good to see you. I appreciate you. And your overwhelm is probably from doing all the many things you do. I imagine that you've probably got some overwhelm about that, because I would if I were in your shoes. And you and I are both really highly intense people, in good ways, right? In good ways, right? So tech overwhelm of being constantly on in order to get that digital connectivity also can bring overwhelm from being constantly connected, right? It does things to our nervous system, even when we don't want it to. Oh, here we go. We got the comments coming in. I think meeting face-to-face on an immersive platform helps us create better limits, because it's closer to the energy draining nature of a person, of being in person, so we can go, okay, let me see. Meeting face-to-face in an immersive platform helps us create better limits for ourselves, because it's closer to the energy draining nature of being in person. Okay, I don't understand all of the comments, but I'm done talking now, let's part ways. Um, I guess you can, like, I don't know, you can disconnect from people easier online because you can just go, "Okay, I'm out." And sometimes that's good and sometimes it's not, right? At least I've had experiences where sometimes, I've had to, like, go, "I'm out," and sometimes I've had other people say, "Oh, I'm out," and so dealing with that constant connectivity or dealing with the when you get drained and when you get whatever is a challenge, because online you can just turn it off, and in person, I wonder if it's harder to just, like, walk away or if it's you end up clashing and then blowing up and doing the things. So this is some food for thought there. I'm not giving any answers. I'm just s suggesting maybe that's an interesting one. Um, I thought that there was a double comment. Um, so, you know, it doesn't let you say what you wanna say, YouTube comments. They're when they make you be succinct about something that's not succinct, right? Um, I wonder if it's different in person, because in person, you pretty much are you more likely, I wonder, are gonna go in the depth even if there's a negative thing going on. Whereas online, sometimes it's like I'm hitting the leave button or I'm turning out. Okay, so now here we get the incoming wisdom from Jessica. In person is very close to the immersive experience. You can scroll forever. If you're in a room, you eventually get tired. Okay, okay, it's nice to see you. See you next time, just like in person. Um, yeah, you can we definitely I think the getting like the overstaying your welcome or feeling like either not feeling like you're overstaying your welcome, but feeling each other feeling like you're overstaying your welcome can get that way, in person or in an online experience. I think the way we leave those things could be different, right? Oh, yeah, as our wires are crossing, but they're probably because they're both firing in 10 million different directions, I suspect. Because if you guys don't know, Jessica is a deep thinker, and she brings up some mm, she and I mirror for each other, and, sometimes our translations don't always work, but I'd say 99.99% of the time, I have learned things from those mirrored conversations, so I appreciate you, my mirror. I appreciate you. Um, and then text. Things don't always translate in text, right? So there's another tech overwhelm. Is there tech overwhelm when you're attempting to communicate with each other? Like some people communicate just on text. And I have clients who do that. They'll communicate just on text messages with each other. And then they wonder why they're having communication struggles when the other person doesn't understand them. And we can't you don't have full understanding when you don't have one nonverbals and nuances and even sometimes physical energy, but I think physical energy can be transmitted through a screen too. uh, I personally think that, but I think when we're communicating just by text, we're missing out on a bunch of the other pieces of communication, and things can get easily lost in translation. And if we don't recognize and appreciate that by like recognizing that, hey, wait, this might be lost in translation, like you just said, Jessica, or that I don't recognize that, hey, I may not be understanding what you're communicating in text the same way you're intending it. I think when we don't recognize that with each other, that can cause some serious um social and communication challenges where that causes additional overwhelm, and the overwhelm gets connected to the technology and the digital, when in fact the overwhelm is because we haven't communicated. We haven't been able to communicate. So, in the last 20, 30 years, we've found ourselves in a different digital communication realm than we were prior to that. Not to say that we didn't have it, because with the telephone or even with handwriting letters to each other, it was still some form of technology we were using to communicate. Even if the technology was, excuse me, I cannot find one of these right now that I need. Even if the technology was a pen and paper, it's still technology. And I think I say this is when we have any form of technology, but when we don't have all of the different pieces of communication, we can't always connect or be connected well. However, well, I'm gonna hold that, because again, I'm going back to being able to describe a really cool way to communicate. Again, the Ripley Show on Tuesday, you guys need to watch it. It's on the Breakthrough Show Network, and it's on Ripley as well. But being always on, what that does to our nervous system, and always on, let me clarify here also. Always on, I don't just mean being on a computer with Facebook, with Zoom, with video platforms, with any technologies. I also mean television, probably radio, even going out driving a car. Anytime we are always on point. Even being in a room with people, say going to say a business trip, and you've got a convention of 4 days worth of stuff, and you're jam-packed with meeting after meeting after meeting, and yeah, it's a networking thing, and it's supposed to be fun, but it's also that, and then people are going out afterwards, and then you also still have to keep up with all of your work during the day, and your family wants you back at home, and or they're with you, or they're trying to connect with you. That's still being always on. The always on being having to be present and with, and if you're somebody who truly values that presence and that being in, if you're in, you're all in. If you're that, those of us who have that propensity towards wanting to intending to be that way as often as possible, you're using all of your energy, and your nervous system is just freaking drained by the time you're done with a business trip like that, because or if you've been online all the time, whenever, because you've used all of your energy to be on point. And we have to recharge. You've got to recharge the nuts. If you don't recharge the nuts, then you got no nuts to give. If you don't recharge them, you don't have any nuts to give. And when you do that over and over and over again, you get into your reserves, and you might use them up. And yeah, you're resting, you might be sleeping, you might be trying to balance things. But when you go too far and you've used up all your reserves, and you get over here into, like, well, whichever way it would look on the car, on the in the fuel gauge, you get down close to empty on your fuel gauge, and that light, as my grandpa used to call them, idiot light, comes on to tell you that you're almost out of fuel. Because back in the day, they didn't have idiot lights that did that. You just better know, because otherwise you're just going to all of a sudden go poop, 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 and your car dies because it's out of gas. Our body and brains and self, we have idiot lights that come on. And then we have things that bing and bing and bing to us to tell us, hello, you've been on too much. You've been on too much, and you need to take a break. And our body is this amazing thing, our body and mind and everything. It'll shut the F down if you don't listen. So the hidden cost of constant connectivity is that mental shutdown. It's that physical shutdown. It's that everything is going to shut down if you don't plan for balance. And we all need different amounts of balance, different schedules of balance, different types of balance. And then when you start trying to balance with each other because you want to either spend time together or you need to for whatever reason, when you're trying to schedule time to see each other and you're also trying to schedule making sure that you're balanced, that's a bitch. That by itself causes more overwhelm, can cause more overwhelm. So I think one of the things is being cognizant that the other person may not have time for you, not because they don't have time for you or don't care about you, but because they're trying to freaking take care of themselves and they need to. And I think that is important to recognize that and to have grace with our friends and family and colleagues and people that we all have different schedules. We all have different ways we balance. We all have different things we do to rest. We all have different some people rest by doing something they feel is fun, but somebody else might go, "Oh shit, that's overwhelming. That's just oh god no." They don't want to do it. And vice versa. Like for me, just watching reruns on TV, to me, waste of time. Makes me nervous, I'd rather go take a damn nap. But I know that there are people in this world, one of which I know really, really well, they love watching reruns on stuff. And to them, that's relaxing. And for me, doing things like building or creating things on even on a digital device is relaxing for me. And for them, they're like, they don't want anywhere near the digital device. And I think it comes back to being able to understand that for each other and respect it and honor those things. And even if we don't honor them in that very moment, we need to honor them ultimately. At whatever point saying, "Hey, I realize you needed rest and I appreciate that and I'm glad you got it." Even if in the prior moment you might have been frustrated in trying to come up with an appointment, even if you happen to stick your foot in your mouth, and I'm really good at that, by the way. Mercury retrograde messes up everybody else's technology. Mercury retrograde sticks my foot straight in my mouth. It's frustrating. And we do things when we're frustrated that we don't really intend to do always. So we're on this planet to learn about ourselves and each other and learning about where do you get overwhelmed? Where do you get tech overwhelmed? Where do you get social overwhelmed? How do you deal with it when you do get tech overwhelmed? How do you deal with it when you get digital overwhelmed? How do you deal with it when you get social overwhelmed? How do you balance things? How do you balancing things with each other? How do you respect that on that meta level? And when you figure those things out, especially when you figure out your own, because the only thing we can ever know fully, the only thing Squirrel here can know 1,000% fully is Squirrel. I am the only one that can know me ever. And I am the only one I can know ever. I can't ever know anyone else to that extent. I can do my best. I can respect them knowing themselves, and I can respect them, but I can never know them to the extent where I would be able to fully give somebody what they need or expect them to fully give me what I need. It's just not possible at the moment. Now, maybe when we get telepathy dialed in a little more, maybe when we get our psychic and energy gifts dialed in a little more, maybe when we realize for sure that we are all part of the same and we can energetically connect with each other. In this day and time right now, we can't. And we have to live within those parameters. We also came here to this life to learn. We came here to this life to understand where we're at in the dark and that come to the knowledge of who we really are. So being constantly connected, both digitally and socially, can be draining because some people, and this is kind of like that introvert extrovert thing. Some, extroverts go out and they exude their energy and they get energized by doing that. Introverts, when they're out, they get drained and they're energized by being by themselves. And that's a gross oversimplification of those things. Because there's also ambiverts, and I can't remember, there's another newer one I've heard that's really cool. It has to do with being an extrovert that's an introvert, but it's not an ambivert. Lots of different verts, different verticals for different people. And so when you have people who are extroverts and introverts together and even ambiverts, you've got somebody who gets more energy by being around people, and you get somebody else who gets drained by it. And then you've got a mismatch of energies, and you also can clash and potentially harm each other without wanting to. It's not always with intent. And so then sometimes introverts retreat and extroverts are the only ones that are out there, and that doesn't help either because we really need to learn each other. So if you're an extrovert and you realize that you're an extrovert and you know that someone else is an introvert, you can work together to figure out how do you help them hold their energy or hold space for their energy so that they don't get drained, and that they may not get drained by being around you and vice versa, right? How does an introvert allow the extrovert to be extrovert while not draining themselves? And how do you maybe maybe even help each other balance, right? So I think that's an important piece of our connectivity as well. How do we balance being on, like being being constantly connected either in the digital sense or social sense, and how do we understand how much of our energy that drains, and how do we get more energy if we need it? How do we help other people balance if they need it? So obviously, and it's the whole 1, 2, 3, 4 breathing. We've talked about that in here. You can, grounding, going out and putting your feet in the grass, being out in nature, sleeping, taking a nap, meditating, doing something you enjoy, like a hobby, spending time together watching reruns on TV or watching movies and just relaxing. And knowing that some people are really good at relaxing and or relax a lot and struggle with getting up and going and doing things. And some people really struggle with relaxing at all, and they're always up and doing things. Again, it's kind of the as my friend Etta puts it, the pairs of opposites. This life is full of this and that, and it's not this or that. It's not X or Y, it's X and Y. And I think that's something we need to really, the understanding is when you can see that there's X and Y, and instead of seeing it as X or Y, as in this is good and this is bad, we'll just call that one of them. is seeing that there is good and bad. Not saying that this is better than this, like that one's better than the other. That's not it. It's that they're both there, that they both exist, and that things exist in those pairs of opposites, black and white, up and down, big and small, extrovert, introvert, and that what happens is there's also the gray in between. When you can learn to see both instead of one or, then you can see the gray that's in between them. And I think that's something we can apply to our constant connectivity and make sure that when we're looking at being connected, either socially, digitally, both, that we look at, is it either on or off, or is it on? Can you be on and off at the same time? And I'm going to use that for a tiny segue, and this might be a stretch, but I'm going to use it, to that immersive platform that Jessica and I were kind of talking about earlier. And when I was talking about Ripley, is our traditionally in digital connectivity, we've been in social media connection. You're friends on Facebook. We're friends on LinkedIn. We follow each other on YouTube. We follow each other on Pinterest. We follow, blah, 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 all of the things. But really it's a one-way communication. Is I am right now communicating to you one way into all of those places. And when you're communicating to me in the chat, you're communicating in text to me one way. But we're not in the same place together as we would be if we were physically in the same room. And the newer technologies, yes, there's been, I'll go back as far as 2001, and I can't remember all the platforms, but I do know Skype was one of them at the time. We've had video connectivity since at least then, and actually we've a long time before, because there's a really cool video from back in the day, and this is, I'm going to call it before I was born, and I'm 57, about video phones. Video telephones were being developed back in, I'm going to say it was 50s, but it might have been 40s. Somewhere in there, like the Jetsons were a thing, but this was like right around or before Jetsons. I can't remember the timeline. Time's getting timey-wimey in my head. But it was well before 2001, and well before that all became popular. And so, but it took a pandemic for us to, as a global community, flock to that particular technology to make it common to go, oh, well, let's get on a Zoom. That phrase 10 years ago was much less common than it is now. And, there are multiple types and multiple video platforms, and each has their own pros and cons. What I'm going to describe to you now is a place that looks like where you see me on this screen, with a bubble. And you saw last week Henry Cameron sitting in another bubble on a chair, and you had us sitting in, and I'll call them drops now, because there's drops in a ripple, and a ripple makes a wave, and a wave makes an ocean. Thank you, Claudio, for that. Thank you, Claudio, for that. Claudio is the owner of Ripley. He has developed a platform where in those drops that you're sitting in, and you're sitting in a space that looks comfortable. You're not sitting in squares on a screen, or you're not just in a little corner on somebody's phone doing a video call. You literally are sitting in more of an immersive space that looks like home, or looks like somewhere a meeting room or an office. Yet it also has fun features, like we've got plants growing in here, and we look like a hobbit hut. Not that that was entirely what the idea was, but you can get fantastical, because you can use AI to create whatever you want in the backgrounds. And you can create immersive experiences in these newer platforms. You can create very immersive places to where somebody doesn't feel like they're time warping when they go from a breakout room to back to a larger group. In the platforms that we've had from, well, it'll be right before the pandemic until more recently, that's what it feels like. And many of you probably know what that feels like. You're at an event, you're in a breakout room, and you whoop, all of a sudden swoop, you're back to the large room, and it feels very disconcerting. It jars you. And you're going through that digital and social overwhelm as it is. You're already overwhelmed, and then you have that happen. And you're like, "Oh God, can I let me catch my breath or whatever's because you just teleported me and it felt like you slammed me against the wall." As opposed to being in a place like a coffee shop where everybody's sitting at their own tables and you can see little bits of the conversation clear across the room to the other side, but you may not be able to hear them. And you can see and hear everybody at your table, but picture that it's not necessarily a cacophony of everyone else in the room. You literally can just have an intimate conversation while you're also in this larger space. I'm doing my best, but I'm pretty sure I'm jacking up being able to truly describe to you what it feels like to be in an immersive yet realistic online visual video immersive experience. And I think the difference in that overwhelm can be having the opportunity to be in a video room, but put yourself in another seat that is quiet and by yourself, although still being in the room with other people. Picture it like the little meeting booths that they have in different places. I think airports and, maybe even some co-working spaces and coffee places have these, they'll have like or even offices, corporate offices have like, instead of having an office per se, they also have these little like quiet rooms where you can go just by yourself into a room and be on a digital call, on a call that you're on, but you don't have the rest of the office's cacophony around you. So picture being in a video room, and maybe you have a real life phone call coming in, or you have another video call coming in from somewhere else, and you can without leaving the video room, you can place yourself in another seat where all you can hear is just you and the other people in the room can't hear you. What I just described is a reality and can happen. And because of those little bitty nuances that are foundational and vital, it creates a different immersive experience and thus a different way to deal with overwhelm, the tech overwhelm. Another thing, when people first got on Zoom with the pandemic, we were all everybody on a screen together, and people didn't realize to turn their camera off if they went and headed toward the bathroom, and maybe they didn't have dress pants on, or maybe they didn't have pants on at all, or and we'd have people streaking on the camera, or you'd have somebody blowing their nose, or somebody who didn't know whether they were on mute or not. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? And yes, everybody could hear them, but they didn't know that. And all of those pieces. As we've gotten used to the technologies and gotten less overwhelmed by where is the mute button, because we've all figured out what the little symbols mean, just like when you're driving a car, there's symbols on the road signs. We now have more of a common language about what happens with video calls. That common language and context helps decrease the overwhelm because we've learned those things and they've become commonplace for us. So we have a common context that helps decrease some of the overwhelm. By no means does it decrease all of it, but it decreases some of it. We have a common culture and language to speak about things. And we understand when somebody says, turn yourself on mute, so that we're able to do that. And that you can turn yourself on mute and still see the other people. You can still react to the person speaking. You can turn your camera off and still be present in the space. You can turn your camera off and not your microphone. You can't do that in a public place. You can't do that in person with somebody. You can't turn the visual off but still have audio, or still have audio but not visual. So there actually are things we can do in some of these spaces that aren't possible in a one-on-one environment, and vice versa. So I think one of the things is being cognizant, intentional, careful, and becoming comfortable with which digital things we use. For example, maybe you use more video and visual meetings because you can be in a place together with people, and doing less of the social media because really it's not doing anything but emptying out your tank. So one of the ways of decreasing the overwhelm is which thing are you spending your time with and which one are you not? Being intentional about where and how much time we spend in which digital spaces. Which brings me then to my other point of things like AI. And I say AI just because it's the newest shiny nut out there. It's not just because of AI, because frankly, when video calls became available, when automations became available, like Zapier and Pabbly and things like that, when email came out all the way around, when cell phones came out, when microwaves came out, when VCRs came out, any form of technology, when fire came out so that we could cook our food instead of eating it raw, any technology helps us do one piece of our life faster so that we can spend more time in the rest of our life. And that's the way I view technology is technology helps us do something we've done before, but do it faster without thinking about it, whatever, right? So that we can because I think the goal is so we can spend more time in more deep social situations, having deep conversations. For example, like the ones that happen on Rise and Shine Sundays on the Breakthrough Show Network. Another great show every Sunday morning, and they go in deep into one conversation, one question. And I get it wrong every time. Spirit sessions on Sunday to help look at grounding and meditation and things and spirit, all the spirit pieces to help that other form of connection spiritually and personally that we need to balance the tech or the always on or the always doing pieces of us, the being piece. AI is a current shiny nut, but what it does, because AI is, again, not smarter than us, but it processes faster. AI can never be human. It doesn't have the human part. AI can't be your therapist because to be a therapist, you have to have art and science. AI has access to all of what the science is, but it can never do the art and the human part, because art and human are very intertwined in that world. As a helper, AI cannot do that for you because all it has access to are the words and the science. It doesn't have access or can't do the art that it needs to do. It can't do the human. It can't do the spirit. It can't do the soul. It can't do the energetic connection. Will it be able to, or the next iteration, or who knows what? I don't know that. None of us know that for sure. Right now, the tool we have can help us get certain things done and process large amounts of data to be able to look at it slightly different so that we can iterate with it and it process that large amount of data and gives us something else to look at, something else to understand, a different way to look at things. So that then we can use our human mind to look at it all differently, process it differently, maybe even take out the tech overwhelm, maybe even discuss it with other people, go deep in the human connection so that we can understand the information better, so that we have different knowledge about what's black, that there's black, white, and gray. Because it's through that interaction between humans of what's black, what's white, and where's the gray, and what the gray is, it's through those interactions that we level ourselves up as humans, individually, small groups, and societally. So I think that's where I'm going to wrap it, is that tech is definitely a thing. Digital and connectivity overwhelm is a thing. We can easily get overwhelmed by all the things. And each of us has a different way of dealing with it. We need to respect each other's different way of dealing with it, even if we don't recognize it in the time. As long as we recognize and communicate that with each other is using and using things like AI and tools to do our I'll call it mundane everyday stuff. So that then when we're with other humans, whether it's virtually or in person, we can be present, interactive, and we can have times where we're present, interactive, and human with each other. Now, are there times where we're doing business or we're doing things on or we're working on things? Yes. Those may or may not be the times where we're able to be fully present otherwise. But we also need time to just connect with each other as humans, connect with nature, connect with animals, connect with self, and just be. We need all of the things in order to balance, because it's like balancing a sphere, not balancing a flat circle. And it's a constant recognize what you need, what's out there, deciding to change something, and then figuring out the breakthrough part. How are you going to break through? And and you've got the taking responsibility for your own stuff. We got to recognize, see what we want to change, take responsibility for our own stuff, and go through whatever process to get through it. There's lots of different ways you can break through things. But you can't break through something you can't see. And you can't break through something until you've recognized what your own responsibility is in the shit. So those are just little pieces to remember in change, because have been and are going through a major processes of change as a society, and we are always going through that as individuals. And that's what this life is. That's what we signed up for this shit. Can you believe that? We signed up to do this. So take an audit of the things that you're doing online, the things you're doing in person, the things you're doing offline, the things you're doing when you're doing rather than being. What balances for you? How do you balance all of your books like that? How do you balance your social, emotional, spiritual, physical, all of your how do you balance all those books with your energies? And then come back next week so I can show you more of my nuts and you can show me more of your nuts. Because we want to break mental health myths. We're going to bust open lies we tell each other about ourselves. We want to bust open the lies we tell each other about needing to be constantly connected physically, socially, digitally, all of the things we have to be connected to, because sometimes being disconnected in those in certain ways and balancing those things and respecting each other's ways of doing it is how we can have, and then using the tools, how we can level up. So, kind of to wrap up, take a second to really check in with yourself. Being human with yourself. No judgment. There's no need for judgment there. Just awareness. How much of your daily anxiety and overwhelm is tied to notifications dinging in whatever devices? How much of your overwhelm in life or anxiety is tied to waiting for XYZ person to call you, or wondering what they're doing, or struggling with communications, whether it's in person or otherwise? And put some information in the comments. I would love to be able to interact with you about that and hear what you have to say, because I know there's lots of good ideas out there that are not in this head, because this is the only one I know. It's the only one I'll ever know, and I won't know anything else unless you let me know what you know. And I'd love to know that. I appreciate you. I appreciate you for watching. Whether you watched today or whether you're watching on the replay, that's time and energy that you are gifting me, and it's greatly appreciated. So remember to, of course, like, share, and subscribe, and come back next week for more Show Me Your Nuts. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this nutty adventure. Remember, personal growth and wellness are journeys best taken together. Keep exploring, keep growing, and don't forget to show me your nuts next time.